Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday morning and our Friday training sessions. Today, you get a great training with our Google specialist, Jen Davis, on Google My Business, which if you're not on Google My Business, you will learn how important it is, especially now when there's no face-to-face and everything is online, what it does for your business. So how it's going to work is that I'll turn it over to Jen. She will do the presentation. If you notice in your taskbar, there's a Q&A section. If you have a question, please type the question into the Q&A section. Jen will stop at certain points during the time and say, are there any questions? Which I will then help her with. I will have the chat up, so if you need to ask me something technical, I can do it, but we really want the questions about Google My Business in the Q&A. So the first thing I'm going to ask with a show of hands, and everyone should be able to raise their hand with a click of a button, can you hear me okay? It looks like yes, we're good. Okay, I'm going to lower your hands. And I am going to stop my share, Jen. Are you ready?
I am ready.
So.
Well, good morning, everyone. Oh, Virginia, can you enable my share?
Oh, I thought I had.
That's okay. We all have to be careful, security, Zoom, all that stuff. But I'm excited to be here this morning. And Google My Business is a very important topic in the midst of COVID. All right. So let's get started. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, and everybody can see my slide, right? Virginia, you can see it?
Hang on, I have to bring the participant screen back up. Everyone, can you raise your hand if you can see Jen's screen okay? Only two. Oh, here we go. Now we have 3. Yes, it looks like the majority can see your screen. We're good.
All right.
Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is go through a little bit of a presentation, just because there's a lot of parts that I want to show you, and it's much easier to do that with screenshots in a presentation than it is to kind of go live. But then we'll kind of dive into our own Google My Business account so I can show you a few things. We won't go through everything. There is a lot. It's actually very user-friendly and things like that, but really I want to tell you overall the functions, walk you through how it appears, and things like that. So first, one of the questions that I always get is, who should use Google My Business? I think there was a lot of notion in the past that it was only for retail type businesses. And certainly if you are a retailer, Google My Business is important. But really, who should use Google My Business is every business. Only if they want customers and only if they like free stuff, of course. So I'm going to share a quick video, and you know what, let me stop my share for 1 second. I want to make sure that I did a share with computer sound. So let me do that again. And here is a quick video.
We're getting the presentation view.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. That's why you have a co-pilot.
Yes. Desktop 2, that's why. Okay.
America runs on small businesses. And every small business is different. But there's one thing they all need to be successful. It's this woman, and this guy, and all these people too. You see, these aren't just any people. They're your people. The customers you know on a first-name basis, who bring their families and tell their friends. And your people are online, right now, searching for you. When you get your business on Google, you make it easy for them to find you. You can also connect with them, share with them, and build the relationships that will grow your business. Unlock the full potential of Google and find your people.
So I wanted to show you that just because it shows a couple of things just from the interface that are super simple, but also to give you an idea, while they did show a lot of retailers there, there's other businesses that certainly can use it. But it's an opportunity, and like I said, it's free. You get an opportunity to talk to potential customers, not only for them to search your information, but you can do messaging, you can post photos, and we'll get into more details about that. So it's more than just getting your address and your phone number out there. So, let's talk about what is Google My Business. And basically, it lets you engage with customers directly and manage how your business appears in Google Search and Google Maps. And I put an asterisk next to Google Search because I don't want this confused with organic listings, which is a whole nother search engine optimization discussion. But there are certain elements of Google Search that you, with a Google My Business account, do have an impact on. And we'll go through those right now. So this is how Google My Business appears on Google Search and Maps. So first we have what's called the Google Search Local Pack. You've probably seen this if you've done a generic search for like restaurants near me. And basically what it is it shows within the normal listings, usually it might come after one advertisement if there is an ad there, but it shows with the map and pinpoints on the map. This was a search for car washes near me. So it's located not too far from my house, and it comes up with 3. The information provided for these car washes is all information being pulled from a Google My Business account. And that includes, if you see, the first 2, and I'll go into a little bit more detail, we have the opportunity to go to website as well as get directions to that location. And I'll go into more details and you can see this a little bit more close up as well. Then we also have, if you're on the mobile or even on the desktop version, this one's a mobile one to show you this experience. This is a search on Google Maps for car wash. And you can see I've highlighted where I'm located and then pinpoints. And there's usually a little bit more on the Google Search local pack. There's only 3, but on Google Maps, either the desktop or the app on a mobile phone will show more locations. And then finally, we have what's known as the Google Search Knowledge Graph. And this is what appears on the right side. We're going to start this one. Sorry for the screenshot. It's a long one, but we're going to break this down and go into details. So that's where we're going to start. So this Google Knowledge Graph, it's this box containing all the business information that you input. Usually if you have not claimed your Google My Business account, there might be information for your business there initially, and then you can claim it. It's usually just a name, an address, potentially a phone number, whatever Google can find from local listings or things like that. So it might be there, but it may be unclaimed, and you can claim it and add more information. But it's this box at the top of the right-hand corner of a Google search result, for instance. And usually it shows when somebody's searching for your brand name. So this one is King Car Wash. So it actually did a search for King Car Wash. It's usually not going to come up if I'm just doing a generic search like car wash, for instance, but really is searching for your business name. And you can see kind of, it has a picture, it has a map. So it does stick out a little bit. So let's just run through what information can be provided. And again, this is information you're providing to Google My Business. So there you can upload different photos. So generally speaking, for retails where there's a business address involved, it will show the Google Street View, for instance. But then you can also add photos. You can allow your customer to add photos as well. And then you also have the pinpoint on the map, so they can go and just click on that map section and get more information into where you're located with the pinpoint. There is obviously your name, but also a link to your websites, directions, which is part of Google Maps. They can save it almost like a bookmark. And then it'll show the overall star reviews of Google. And it actually shows the number of stars and how many reviews there are. And that review is actually where it says 229 Google reviews is actually clickable, so they can go into more details with the review. Next, going further down that graph, information, address, if that's important to your business. You might have a service-based or a service area type business where you're not really accepting customers at your location, but you may have an office there, so you're dispatching people, so you may not have your address show, for instance. Your hours. So this one right now, and you'll notice, by the way, I should say, you may notice like little icons. This one says hours or services may differ, and this is in response to COVID-19 right now. So this is not normally part of the Google Knowledge Graph, but obviously knowing that some businesses are either closed or have differing hours that maybe they didn't update on Google My Business, Google is just giving us that warning to double check that. Depending, I searched this at 2 o'clock on Thursday, so it said at that time it was open and it closes at 5 p.m. If I click that little arrow next to 5 p.m., it would actually show me all the days and hours that is listed for those hours, so I can know more information. If I wasn't looking to go there right then at 2 o'clock on Thursday, if I wanted to go on Saturday, I could look to see what time they're open. Their phone number. There's also a suggest and edit, or if as I mentioned, if the business isn't claimed, there is this own this business where you can claim the listing, or if you've recently taken over a business and they had a Google My Business, you can actually click on that and start the transfer notice. But also as a consumer, I can suggest and edit. If I know that they are only open till 4 on Thursdays, I can suggest that that'll be sent to the owner of this profile, and they can make the decision whether they want to change it or not. And then you'll see popular times, as well as a graph, and you can change, again, this was on Thursday, but I can change that off to the right-hand side there. It was about 2 p.m., which it says that time it's a little busy, and planning the visit, people spend about 15 minutes here. It's a car wash. Now, how does Google know this? This is actually something that you don't control. This is something that Google controls. And what it basically does, it's all about, they use beacon technologies with some businesses. Usually those tend to be more of the big box stores. So for instance, a Nordstrom, Walgreens, those types of stores. It's almost, I don't know if you've ever walked into a Walgreens. If you have the Walgreens app, your app might go off as you're walking into the store as a, hey, did you know this is on sale? And that's all done via beacons. But this is also through really tracking kind of cell phones, like if you've done a search for it and then you've ended up in the store, things like that. So it's all about kind of the data that's out there as we're all walking around and seeing things. So that's typically what Google uses from there. And again, it's able to time the visit. So if you don't have, and this is all supposed to be anonymous aggregate data is how Google views it. So if you only get 10 customers a day in your store, for instance, you're most likely not going to have this. But this is, you know, a popular car wash near me. They can have on a beautiful Saturday, they can have hundreds of cars. So they have a lot of data here to mine through this. You'll see it with grocery stores, you'll see it with Target and those types of places as well. It just depends on the popularity or how many people are coming in and out of the door at a certain, over a certain amount of time. All right, and then next on the knowledge graph. So if you have reviews or you allow for Google reviews, that is there. You can also send this to your phone. So if somebody looks it up online and is heading out the door to go there, it's simply send to phone and they can, you know, then drive there with driving directions and stuff. Google reviews, so a little bit more detail. Above we had the stars, but now we've got actually some text to the reviews. And you can link to those as well. You can add a photo as a consumer. You can write a review right from there and view them all. And then you can also get various updates and posts, and I'll show that to you in just a second. And then if the business has included, you can link to the other social profiles. So this particular car wash has provided their Facebook profile as well. So that's the knowledge graph that shows up at the right-hand side when people search for your business. So I want to stop right for a moment and see if we have any questions.
So I have a question while they're typing their questions in, Jen.
Yes.
The Google Beacon.
Yes.
You used to be able to just get one for free,
Yes.
but I know that they've made changes. Do you know if they're still available?
I believe they are for purchase, but what Google has basically said is that if you are not getting something like, so, because it can also be used with your AdWords. So in AdWords, it requires 10,000 clicks to your ads over a month, and that's aggregate. But you also need something like, I think it's 1,500 or 2,000 visitors to your store in a month's time frame as well. And those are trackable ones, which you may not know if they're trackable because they may not have their cell phone with them, for instance, or they might have not done a search or things, or they might not be signed into their Google account, for instance. So you'd probably need somewhere, in more like the 3,000 range in order to have that tracked and to be eligible for a beacon as well.
Okay, thank you. So we
Yeah.
have some questions now. The first question is, can you have more than one business located at the same address?
Oh, great question. Usually if you do, there is some type of, you may just designate it by, like, even if it's not a unit, you may call it number 2 or number 1, for instance, just to designate a difference. Even if that is not your postal address, Google may require that. They may not as well. So if you're claiming the business, I would put in the regular address, do your second business, and do it under the same Google account so you can have more than one business, particularly if you have multiple locations. You can actually bring that into one account but have separate listings for each one of them. So sometimes Google gets a little weird with the addresses. So you might have to designate a number 1, almost like a suite number, but try it without it first.
Can I add to that, Jen?
Mm-hmm.
So you touched on it, but I don't know if they heard it, because this was a problem to beginning with Google My Business when you had multiple locations, because they only allowed you one in the listing. And now you're telling us that you can put more addresses in that business address. So if there's franchise or more than one locations, they all work.
Correct. Yes, you can do that, and migrate it into one overall account so that you can make changes to all of those. I don't know that you can make individual like hour changes for everybody at the same time. I think the interface is still a little bit goofy with that, but you don't have to sign into, if you have 20 locations, you don't have to sign into 20 different accounts. Yes.
And the other distinction I wanted to make is when you do a second business at the same location and give it a suite number or a apartment number, whatever you're doing, you need to remember that you need to do that on that business throughout the internet, because Google looks at things very literally. So you want to make sure that when you put up a Facebook thing, or you put up your website, or when you put a citation in somewhere, that if Google My Business says Suite 2, all the rest of them do also.
Good point. Very good point.
Okay, next question. Sorry, Jen.
No, you're good.
It looks like your reviews are anonymous, but I thought Google didn't allow for anonymous reviews. Can you explain?
So this is just a snippet of the knowledge graph. These reviews are actually attached to people's names. And you can see here some pictures, for instance. So if you go into all Google reviews, it actually shows you all the information. They're just taking snippets here.
Okay, that's it. We can move on.
All right. So that was the knowledge graph. I just want to quickly show you the Google local pack. So again, this is going to appear potentially after an ad, for instance, but it usually is high in the search results. It will show the map, it will show the pinpoints of the map, and then tie those businesses. And this is going to be more for a search of like car wash near me, for instance. And this is on a desktop, so it's only going to show me the 3. Again, note we've got this hours or services may differ. This is a COVID thing. That is not normally there. And then we've got the listing of these car washes. So you'll see first one is open 24 hours. It's probably a self-serve. We've got another one, the King Car Wash that we were focusing on, that closes at 5 p.m. and then Suds on 83. You'll also notice that for the first 2, I have links to websites, and that is because these are active Google My Business accounts. They have included the website for me to link to. or the last one, Suds on 83 Car Wash, either hasn't claimed their business. They've got hours there, so I'm going to assume that they have, but they have not included a website address for me to go to. And then I can also click on directions, which is an automatic that just comes as part of Google Maps. So I can click on that and it'll take me to Google Maps and give me directions, whatever I choose, and I can send that to my phone and things like that. But this is all powered by Google My Business. So it's a great way to be up near the top for local customers. So this is very important for customers that literally can get in their car and drive to you within moments, for instance.
I have a question on that one, Jen, before you leave.
Let me
So
go
sorry.
back. No, you're good.
Only because my question is, how do they decide which is A, B, and C? Is it by distance from you? Is it by something you do in your business, Google My Business account, which you may get to later?
This is totally, and because I did specifically car wash near me, it is based on my location. So yes, it's good at first. You'll see that we have the A, B, and C. You'll see that we also have dots around that though, and those are potentially other places that, for instance, it could be a gas station that has a car wash, but it's not just a car wash. So they may not be included, but those little red dots tell me that there is potentially more. And if I actually go to Google Maps, I can see more. But these are the ones that listed themselves as car washes and that are closest to me as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right, and then Google Maps. Again, I did this on a mobile phone. So you can see it actually highlights my location. You can see the pinpoints, and I don't know if you notice it, but there is a shell a little bit over from the blue. So let me see if I can annotate that for you. So right there, there's a little gas station icon. So again, that is one that is indicating they have a car wash, for instance, but it's not just a car wash. There's also a mobile over here as well. So it's giving me a little bit more information, but again, it's based on my location. It's based on things that are called car washes, for instance. And this would show similar on a desktop. Again, this is my mobile. On the mobile, and the reason why I did this is because I wanted to indicate that just like the other one, we have, instead of website, we actually have a phone, for instance. If the business has included their phone number, and on a mobile phone, you can just hit the little phone icon and it will click to call. So it'll automatically, either on your Android or your Apple or any other smartphone, will automatically prompt you, do you want to call this number? And again, I've got the direction symbol as well. All right, so let me just stop again, because those are all the ways that this shows up in either Google search or Google Maps. And before I go into a little bit more of the exciting stuff, I just want to stop and see if there's any more questions.
So if you didn't, while they type in their questions, I'm gonna ask one.
Yeah.
If you don't type in near me, is there a hierarchy to what's going to come into then that pack, that local pack?
So potentially it's still going to base it on your location if it can determine that.
Okay.
Not always, particularly on desktops, if you've not allowed it to, it may not, or you're not signed into an account, for instance, it may not be able to do that. Some of it is then going to be based a little bit on the information that you searched and how it matches to the information that they've put in. So if I said auto wash instead of car wash, and they've only used car wash, or there's no like synonym to that in Google's mind, which there is in that case, it may show a little bit differently, and show me things that are further away from me than ones that are closer, based on the search that I do.
Okay. There are no questions.
Okay.
At this point for the Google Maps.
Okay. So that is the basics of Google search and maps, but there is a lot more to Google My Business. And the first thing is you can actually show social posts, just like other social media outlets. So here's, did a quick screenshot of some things on Weiskopf Consulting. And right now they're actually offering the COVID-19 update if you need to do something special with that, whether that's any information that you need to put about social distancing or things like that. So Google has made that available to businesses right now. You can also add offers. So if you have a special coupon or something like that, an update is just what I'm showing here from Weisskopf is just, whatever it is, we've got, this, it could be the sun is shining today, for instance, even if it's a little bit cold out here in Chicago or things like that. And then you can also add an event as well. So there's a lot of things that you can include in the information kind of at the spur of the moment. Okay. Clear that. And then the other thing that it does is it allows you to get these consumer insights. So here's just a random screenshot of things that you can look at. So, how did customers view or search for your business? They directly search for your business by a name or an address, for instance, or maybe they searched it using like a category or a product name. So that'll break that down for you. And then it also lets you know how people are viewing your business on Google. Are they searching it, are they looking at it as a listing on search, like through the knowledge graph or the local pack, or do they do it through maps, whether that's their mobile phone or on their desktop? And then you can actually see what actions are they taking. Did they call you? Did they visit your website? Did they look at photos or request directions to your location? And then it can get into very specific driving direction requests, where they're coming from, for instance, and potentially knowing how far they're coming from. And then I'll also show you how many phone calls you got. If that's a big part of your business, this is a great way to do some phone tracking as well. This is just a little bit of a touch. These are the main consumer insights that you can receive if people are interacting with your Google My Business listing, either on search or through Google Maps. But there are actually a couple more, but these were probably the big ones. So I want to quickly stop and see if there's any questions on these.
Okay, I'll give them a minute to type any on an insight. So on here, if I was looking at it and I found that people discovered, would it then tell me the categories and the products, Jen? It would take us down another level?
You would have to, it actually does not take you down another level. But you can use then potentially Search Console and those types of tools to see what search keywords are producing clicks and or impressions.
Okay, so then you have to go to your analytics piece, right?
Right, yeah, so you kind of have to marry the two a little bit.
Okay, there's not a lot of questions so far. You're doing great.
Okay, all right. The other thing that you can do, sorry, I have two screens going and sometimes they don't cooperate with me very well, especially with the annotations. Sorry about that. All right, you can also add photos. There is, if you can see up here, let me circle it. In addition, you've got some other options, but obviously you want to put up your logo. You can do a cover just like you would on Facebook or LinkedIn or one of those. You can do a video, you can do interiors. So obviously not happening right now with COVID-19. But if the interior, like a walkthrough through your store, would be of interest, Google does offer that. They will actually send somebody out to do almost like a street view of the inside of your store or restaurant, for instance. Obviously, they've put that on hold with COVID. Not sure when that's going to open up again, but something that you can think of for the future. But in addition, you've got, you can do interior photos, you can do exterior photos. If you are a food and drink establishment, you can take those separate photos, team, and then anything with your branding, which they've labeled as identity. So again, your logo or anything else like that, for instance. I say the more photos, the better. Particularly if you are a restaurant or you are selling unique items like a gift store of some sort, it's a great opportunity to show people what potentially you have to offer that they may not otherwise know about. Okay, So definitely try to use as many photos as you can. And then the other thing too is that you can actually message with your customers. Now you have to turn this on in the back end, so you don't have to. But if you do turn this on, you have the ability to connect your smartphone, for instance, is that the user can see not only to call, get directions, go to your website, they can message you. And you can receive these on your smartphone, for instance, and instead of click to call, they're click to messaging you. Particularly, I would say if you have a establishment that is particularly of generation Y or millennials who don't necessarily like to pick up the phone and talk to someone, this is a great opportunity to utilize this, get them a quick answer, for instance, and hopefully, have them make a purchase or visit your location as well. This is something that you really have to turn on. Most of the time when you put in your phone number, the call button will come up on Google My Business. Same with, once you've claimed the business and you've got the address in and it's verified, that all shows up, but the messaging you actually have to turn on. All right. And then the other thing is you have the ability to respond to reviews. What is always suggested is that you respond to both negative and positive reviews. We won't get into how to respond to them, but you do have that ability here through the Google My Business with reviews that come into you. Okay, so you're probably thinking, all right, that's it. Google My Business, I get up on the search on maps, I've got this ability to deal with reviews, people can message me, I can put photos. There's actually more, and this is the part that a lot of people don't know about. You could actually use your Google My Business account to promote your business offline as well. So they have these great marketing kits, I guess is what they call them, that you can actually use, order through them, print either at home or sent to a local printing shop. And it includes a couple things to kind of encourage people to use Google, to leave you reviews and things like that. So this example is of a poster, and I'll give you a couple more examples here. They have different styles. A lot of them are kind of the, with the women in the background, that geometric shape, but they also have just plain colored ones. And it can feature a snippet from a review, for instance. It can also allow you to request reviews or to just follow you on Google My Business. So there's a lot of options. These are examples of review snippets. You can also then get matching social media images for this. So if you have a poster, you can get a social media graphic in the same way. It's just a quick download, and then you can post it, and you're allowed to post it not only on Google, but Instagram, Facebook, and all of those. Whether that's just a snippet of a review, or you can do something for an event that you've done as well. It will have the Google branding on it. For instance, you can kind of see the pinpoint of the map, which is kind of iconic for them. And then it also does say Google on it, but it's graphics that you don't have to create, for instance, and you can have matching ones throughout. You can also order window stickers for them. So they offer 3 right now. It's book with us on Google, review us, or follow us on Google. So you can get one of those, whichever is pertinent to your business, and include that like on your door, in your window, or something like that. Or even, if you're a bakery, for instance, you can include it on the glass of your cabinet, for instance. So again, just more ways to interact with your customers and to get them to interact with you and show other people that they're interacting or that they like your company. Again, here's just a quick view. Like, they have table tents, they do have the posters, they've got little cards with a QR code on it. And again, some of these can be printed on your desktop printer, or you can send it to a local printing shop. I would certainly suggest the posters to go to a local printing shop, but you may be able to do the table tents on your desktop printer, for instance, depending on, of course, the style that you choose. This one is the thanks for your support, for instance. It's actually a postcard type that people can take with them. It's pretty simplistic, doesn't involve a lot of color. That might be an opportunity to print at home or at your business. And then posters with lots of color, things that you want to pop, and that may go into your window, for instance. So making sure that it's a little bit better color so that so that it's not sun, doesn't get shading from the sun, for instance. All right, so let me just stop and see if there's any questions on the marketing kits.
Yep, we do have some questions.
Yep.
They go back a little bit too also. For the messaging application, would you have to have a cell phone number for messaging to work?
No, it actually provides you an app in order to do that. So it doesn't necessarily have to go, it doesn't have to go to your cell phone, it can. I mean, you can do an app on your desktop too, almost like if you had like a live chat on your website, it can act through another agent. It doesn't actually have to be text messaging on your cell phone.
Can you tell how we turn on the messaging button?
Yes, I'm going to go into our back end so I can go into that section. So I'll do that in just a minute.
So I'll leave that one up, so I'll remind you. Yep.
Thank you.
I heard reviews are shut off at the moment. Is this true?
That's a good question. They actually just turned reviews back on, I believe, on either Tuesday or Wednesday this week.
Yeah, well, you were talking and that came up. I looked it up and reviews are back on, but Jen will tell you we have had to wait for a lot of things because they're struggling like everyone else.
Yes, my understanding is they turned it back on, but that the go live of them, because Google does review them just more from a family content perspective, making sure there's no swear words or other, really inappropriate things in them. And I know that process is just taking a little bit longer because of restrictions, team members, and just their bandwidth right now. So it's there, they can leave reviews. Whether they go live from the system may take a little bit longer.
That's all we have right now.
Okay, great. So really quickly, if you don't have a Google My Business, how do you do this? Simply go to google.com/business. I don't know why Google does this, is a little strange, because it's asking you to manage now and instead of like log in or to start an account, for instance, but they do call it manage now. So that is the button you want to click on. And what it will do, it will ask you to type in your business name to see if it's already listed. Like I said, Google does mine information. So, if you started a business and, applied for a business license, they do receive that information and will put, the business name, the address, for instance, in there so that you can find it and then claim it. If you cannot find your business, once you start typing in, it will actually it will start to give you suggestions on whether it's your business or not. If you can't find it, then you simply click on the add business to Google and start that process. Now for the fun part, verification. So I will tell you that most local businesses, ones that are storefronts that they're expecting people to come into their location, will still be verified by mail. And so you'll receive a postcard. It takes anywhere from 2 to 14 days. So it does take some time, and it will include a code. So you start the process, you get into kind of a temporary account. And then once you get the postcard with the code, you put that in, you verify. It's very similar to if you were getting a code from Google to sign into your account and they texted you a code. They do this by mail, and it's very particular because of the address and location, and make sure that it's going to the right place. Again, where businesses where the address is not that important, so service area businesses. So again, you might be a plumber and nobody's really coming to your location. It really is you're going out to the customer. So some of those businesses have other options to verify, like either email or phone. And it's a little bit on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I do know they kind of put plumbers in one bucket, but we do have plumbing, plumbers that actually have like storefronts that they're still expecting customers to come in to look at remodels or to actually buy parts or things like that. So they may be required by mail as well. So it does take time. So don't think if you haven't claimed this, you're going to go out today, get this all done, and get started. You do have to go through the verification process. So let me stop there and see if there are questions before we go into the interface.
We'll just give them a second here.
Sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this share, show my face for a second, and see if there's any questions and pull up
Oh, yeah.
my other
Are
screen.
there any restrictions to home-based businesses, which is a different question from security related to that?
So that is one of the things. If you are a home-based business, you will still have to put in your address. And you will most likely still have to be verified by mail, and your address as well as the street view of your home will be put out there. So that is something that you do need to consider when doing this.
We have a Google My Business account, but we still occasionally receive calls saying we need to verify our business. Is this really Google calling if we have already been verified?
Yeah, Google does not call people to verify businesses. So those are, they're not necessarily scammers, but there is partnerships that Google has with agencies, and the more people they get to sign up through Google My Business, the more incentives they get. So that is what they're trying to do. So technically they could probably set up your Google My Business, but they're going to just reclaim what you have. So if you are set up, you're good. Those are what I would list as scam calls. Or again, they're not trying to be deceitful or take your information, but but Google does not reach out to people to do it.
Okay, we're ready to move on.
Okay, let me share my new screen. And so we're in the back end of Weiskopf Consulting. And again, I will just point out that we have a lot of COVID-19 information. You'll see up at the top, we have limited Google My Business functionality. Like I said, there are things that are taking a little bit more time because they do edit and they do review things. And for instance, even your replies to reviews, again, and make sure that they're appropriate to be out on the web, for instance. So there is a little bit of delay. So just so you know. And they have this is a great way, if you have a Google My Business, you can update your business hours, for instance, here, as it signed me out, of course, should have known that. You can update your business hours, for instance, if you need to because of COVID-19. You can also, if you are a business that is temporarily closed because of shelter in place, for instance, you can do that here and then turn that off as well. Okay, but again, you can add some special hours, but here's all the basic information: address, hours, phone number, websites, if we had a way to make it an appointment or things like that, general information. If you are a recently opened business, you can add an opening date. And down here at the bottom, you can actually add photos. You can actually do that over from the navigation as well. And again, we've got a couple photos up here. And there's a lot of options. They've actually added a couple too. There's the 360s. They've got one that they're calling at work. So you can kind of bucket these in addition and when you upload them. Other things to show you is, again, posts. So these are recent ones. So you can add a COVID-19 update, again, offer, update, add an event. And they're simply very much like Facebook or LinkedIn, very similar to that. You can add a photo, you write your post, you can add a button, learn more, for instance, and then you can preview and publish it. Insights, because we're not a business that gets, foot traffic. We don't have a lot of information here, but again, this is very similar to what I showed you. The consumer actions, who called you, directions requests, phone calls. Again, we don't get a lot of information, not being like retail or a restaurant or things like that. So there's not a lot of data here. And then again, the reviews, and you can reply to them here. And it'll show you ones that you've replied to and ones that you haven't replied to, so you can organize them. Here is the messaging. So what you're going to do is you can install that app from either Google Play or the App Store, and that starts the process of messaging. So it is installing one of the apps depending on your device or computer, for instance, and that will start the process. So you actually have to go into that messaging section to start that. The other thing too is if you have employees that you want to include that can do posts on your behalf, you can add them as users. So if you've got a social media person, you can add them to this in order for them to post or to get insights, for instance, or add photos, reply to reviews, whatever you want. And you can designate them. We've got obviously Virginia as the owner and then the rest of the team as managers so that we can come in here and do things that we need to. Oops. I thought I was hitting the X to close the window and I was about to
Right out.
Right. And I also talked about, for instance, if you're a franchisee, you can add a location and that'll take you through the verification process again. So that was simply in the left-hand navigation of add a new location. And then from there, we've only got one location. So, but if you had more than one, you can list them here. The nice thing too is that if you have in addition to your own, if you are managing Google My Businesses on behalf of clients, as a user, you would see all of the clients here as well. So if I had, if we had a client and we were managing that, I could have a list of all the clients here so I didn't have to log into each individual client's account. I could do that here. And I think that's about it. Oh, you can include different services as well. So for instance, computer support service, data recovery. So if you're a service-based business, you can add your services here. And I think that's about it. It's pretty self-explanatory. It gives you a nice dashboard as well. Oh, I mentioned the 360 interactive experience. So it will, you can get a quote here. So it looks like you can still do this in the sense of go out there and ask for what it will cost to do that. I just don't know how soon that will actually happen, for instance. You can also view your business, how it actually views on maps and things like that. And I think that's about it. What questions do we have?
Okay, we answered the one about how to turn on messaging, so I'll get rid of that, and I will give them a minute to come up. So the link is business.google.com. See it right up here. Hang on.
Yes, you can do that as well.
All right, can you circle that, Jen? I can't.
Yeah.
And that will get you to it. You could also Google My Business, and it will take you there. So I'm getting no questions so far. They're either overwhelmed or they understand things completely.
There is a lot to this, but really when it comes down to it, and particularly if you're a retail, you want your address, you want your hours. If I need to change hours, it's pretty easy. You can add, so if you close, like my vet's office closes at noon till 1 o'clock to give everybody a lunch break. So they have 2 sets of hours for every day. You can do that as well. So it's actually very easy to use once you get in there, for instance. The other thing is to, I should mention, is you can connect this to your Google Ads account, particularly if you have multiple locations as well. This is actually a very good thing to do. If you actually connect it with your Google Ads account, then there is a location extension within Google Ads that you can turn on that will pull the address over to your Google Ads. So it may show your ad with your location address within the ad, in addition to the knowledge graph or the Google local pack as well. And if you have multiple locations, it's actually fantastic, because let's say you have two locations that are within 5 miles of each other, it will actually show the one closest to the user if it can determine that user's location. So it actually does all the thinking for you, which is great. So if I have two nail salons run by the same owners and they're 10 miles apart from each other, and I search, it's going to try to find out which one's closest to me at that time and make that decision real time and show it with their ad, for instance, when you make the connection between the Google My Business account and the Google Ads account.
We have a couple questions for you,
Okay.
Jen.
Yep.
Do you recommend video testimonials be placed in the video section? And what would a good ratio of video versus Google reviews be?
I don't really have a go-to answer on the ratio. I do like I do like video reviews. However, with some of this, particular if you are a quick search, if it's, I just need to know who's near me to get a car wash, being able to read a review really quickly or a snippet of a review is much easier, particularly if I just want to go and do this. If it's a bigger purchasing decision, something I'm going to spend a lot of money on, for instance, so if I'm buying a car versus washing a car, I think video testimonials, because I'm going to take my time to watch them. So that's where I would differentiate the two. If it's quick decision, I want words that I can just view it on my phone. If it's a longer description, excuse me, or a longer buying cycle or something more expensive, video testimonials where I can actually pick up on people's behaviors and hear what they have to say, I think are better. And I would include video testimonials in the video section of the photos.
Okay, here's an interesting one for you, Jen. If
Yes.
you change the name of your business but are still offering the same services, can you do that on Google My Business, or does that require legal activity?
I believe that you can here, like, I can change it. They're gonna review it, and that might cause Google to actually call or question that. But technically, you should be able to change it.
And I would again remind people of citations on the web. If you're changing it in one place and you want everything to stay connected, you're going to have a list and change it everywhere so everything matches.
Yes.
Okay, here's the next one. And this may not be related, but in our business, people don't always want to make it public that they used our services. It says law firms, I would say attorneys. Do you have any recommendations on how to get people to leave a review when they can't be anonymous? It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. So, because the other thing, the first thing that comes to mind is have them create a secondary account, a Google account for them to leave a review. However, that will tend to get flagged, at least eventually, if it's the only one that they're leaving reviews for instance. I've had others that have had a friend do it where the friend wasn't as worried about it, on their, done it on their behalf. Yeah, I can't think of any other ways.
Yeah, it's tough when you're in a business where people don't want to say they've used you. I know that a lot of attorneys use Avo for reviews, and people will leave reviews there. But again, they have to identify themselves. That's problematic.
I mean, the other thing that you can do is that if you're actually getting testimonials from clients, written words, you can actually make that into an image and upload that as a photo. It won't show obviously stars or in the Google review section, but if you just want something out there, that might be a workaround, is make it into a graphic and put it into the photo section. And then the only other thing I would say is that if you can find a customer who is willing to do it, incentivize them in any way that you can, even if that's a 50% off fee or 75% off. If they're willing to do it, you might be able to do that.
Okay, there was an answer that someone doesn't like Avo, but it's hard for lawyers to get reviews.
Yep.
Someone says, thank you very much. It has been very, very informative. And I have no more questions. Do you have more, Jen, or are we at the point where if there's no more questions, you're going to wrap up?
I am good at this point if there are no other questions. My only other insight is get a Google My Business account, start the process. And again, if you do already have one, make sure that you're updating it with COVID-19 information that's appropriate, whether that's hours, whether that you are requiring social distancing, whether you're requiring a mask as well. There's unfortunately a lot of violence going on a little bit when people are showing up to stores and being required to wear a mask. So that's information you can put on Google My Business at this point. So take advantage of it while you can. All right.
Skip your update that's on my screen.
Oh.
I have to tell you, as Jen was going through this and there was using the snapshots of Google My Business, I realized I haven't been there in probably 2 years to update it, which is very bad on my part. And I'm writing down notes of all the places where I need to go back in and do updates.
New logo and stuff, so.
Yes, new branding, all that stuff. Those were the obvious ones. There were some other ones too. So I think if you put it up there, remember you can't just prevent it. If you create it, put a date on your calendar in 6 months and go look at it again. Because it's easy to forget and think it's done, but Google pulls this information and they are the most important search engine there is. So you need to keep them happy and well fed.
Absolutely.
So that's all we have. I want to thank you for coming to our Friday skills training. This will be saved. Jen will send me the slides, which I will send to everyone who attended. And I will also be posting the recording on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch it. I think that I have an ending slide. Hold, please. Here, so that these are our upcoming events. Next week, we're doing Facebook ads. Also, the week after, I'm doing a score presentation for Fox Valley Score on communicating with customers in the digital space. What are we doing now? Because people who weren't prepared for this really were behind the 8 ball. And then on Friday the 22nd, we're doing LinkedIn. On the 29th, we're doing Create a Marketing Plan. And then on the 5th of June, we are choosing a software scheduling for digital media. So we're trying to keep you guys, giving you a quick hour of training skills so that you can learn some things while we're all in our offices. If you go to Weiskopf Consulting, go to the education page, all the links are there. And I appreciate you coming today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.